Pakistani artist Usman Riaz's journey to create his dream project. Pakistan's first hand-drawn animated film, The Glassworker, is well documented, garnering universal praise for its story and technical achievement. Usman is now setting his eyes back on his first love, music. In this exclusive interview, the maverick Usman Riaz talks about his influences and his return to performing music.
And then we have Mr. Usman Riaz back at City FM 89 once again.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you. The guitar that I'm playing is Kurt's guitar, and this big thank you for providing me with all of that. And it's a lovely guitar, and I hope I did it justice. It's been a long journey, and I'm happy to be here. I have not performed in many years. I keep noodling around with the instruments. I wrote the score for The Glassworker with a brilliant co-composer, Carmine DeFlorio, but I haven't performed. So this was kind of a semi-return. Although I'm not as sharp as I used to be, I think the rawness made up for it, I hope.
So when was the last time you actually performed?
The thing that comes to mind is, like I said, I've always been playing with the instruments and writing on my own, but performance is different. The last time I properly performed in front of an audience would have to be 2018. And I think one of the TED conferences, I'm not sure, but it's been a really long time.
So do you think filmmaking has taken over your musicianship?
I wouldn't say it's taken over my musicianship, because I was writing for the film while I was drawing the film as well. And I presented a lot of motifs to Carmine, our co-composer, and then he did some variations on them. He also wrote a lot of his own music, and we kind of had a very close collaboration while we were writing the score for the film. And then, of course, when it came to the recording, I could not be involved in that. And Jose, the sound engineer for the project, and just a brilliant musician himself, and Carmine worked on that, and I think I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Well, why could you not be involved with that?
Because I was also busy with production. So I was in the creation phase and then the kind of writing the demos out. But when it came to the actual recording, I was there for some of the sessions. I could not be there for the entirety of it, but I trusted everybody who was working on it completely, and I think it turned out great.
But you wrote all the music for it. So going back, scoring a film compared to performing, let's say right now, like how do you feel?
I think performance and composition are inherently two different things. You have to have a lot of showmanship when you're on stage. You have to kind of, especially when you're playing with an audience, it's like an interaction between you and them, versus composition, which is a much more solitary craft. You're basically writing, and in terms of film scoring, you're writing the score for the film on your own, essentially. There's no audience. So that's different. That's more, I would say, the craftsmanship and musicianship comes in there for me. Performance is different. It's just as much fun. It's just a different kind of fun.
So now let's go into a deep dive.
Yeah.
Your major inspiration was Jimmy Page, Led Zeppelin. For those of y'all who do not know, Led Zeppelin was a very big band, is still a very big band, and was like the core of heavy metal, right? That's not your genre though.
No.
But that was your inspiration. So what made you go from getting inspiration from Jimmy Page to this? Such a different style of guitaring.
I grew up playing classical piano, and being trained in how to read and write music. So guitar I picked up actually when I was 16. And the only reason I picked up the guitar is because I kept watching, and my father kept listening to Led Zeppelin, but also he had recently got the DVD of their live performances. And I always loved Led Zeppelin, but I just saw Jimmy Page performing. This was the DVD that came out in 2005. I just really wanted to be able to do that. So my passion for the guitar came out from that. Particularly a piece called Bronnar Stomp, which they performed in 1975 at Earl's Court. That particular performance was on recording. So I was like, I have to just somehow learn that. And I was able to figure out the tuning and just started playing that. So that's really how I got started. And then I just started getting more and more into just Jimmy Page in general, and just I love the way he plays. And a lot of people, they don't like, nobody really agrees on his technical prowess. I think he's extremely gifted, and especially like before, I would say 1977, I don't think there was a better guitar player to come out of England in terms of just how much he could improvise. In terms of, if you listen to their live performances, he never played, and the entirety of Led Zeppelin never played this song the same twice. And I have all of these bootleg recordings from their 1971, 1972 tours where just every song was always just teetering on the edge. You're like, oh my God, is it going to fall apart? What are they doing now? And they would always just take it off into another direction. And that fascinated me because they just treated the live performance like this just experimental space where they could fly off in whatever direction they wanted to go in. I mean, there's something very special about those 3 years in particular. I would say 1970, 1971, 1972, where just there was no band better than Led Zeppelin, in my humble opinion, in terms of live performance, in terms of just the repertoire that they put out. This was before The Song Remains the Same live recording that came out in 1973. The one they filmed in 1973 put out in 1976, but that was their 1973 tour. And that's when Jimmy Page started wearing his guitar really low, and it became much more theatrical and still amazing. But I think that in particular, 71, 72, those bootleg recordings were just phenomenal. If nobody's heard those, I just encourage you, listen to Led Zeppelin and listen to their live performances, because there's nothing like it.
And you said there was no one performance that was similar.
Yeah.
Right? It was always, but that's also the band that carries that,
Of
right?
course.
It was all them, Bonham,
Yeah.
being the major person.
He's amazing. He's the driving force. Bonham, John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page, they were just such a amazing unit. And especially John Bonham and John Paul Jones, they were so tight that Jimmy Page could fly off into all of these different directions, and then they'd improvise on top of that. And Robert Plant's voice at that point wasn't, I wouldn't say, it started getting a little damaged 73 onwards, but still, like, he changed around some of the songs, the way he sang them, and I think he still sounded absolutely phenomenal. They were just an amazing band. I could go on and on about them.
Okay, so now we spoke about how the band also carries the guitarist.
Yeah.
Right? What do you think about Ed Sheeran? Because you also perform, but you perform a lot differently than Ed Sheeran. You don't use a loop pedal. Ed does. So
I think he is one of the most amazing musicians in the world, and you have to agree, because look at where he is. These people, everybody who is in popular music, there's no denying that they are supremely talented, because it's not luck that just gets you there. It's a tremendous amount of hard work and skill. And even people like Taylor Swift, all of these huge acts, there is a lot of talent, and not just the artists themselves, but the people behind the artist as well, that it just allows them to rise. And I think Ed Sheeran is a phenomenal musician, and anyone who thinks otherwise, I'm sorry, but look at what the things he's doing, the compositions he writes, the arrangements he does, integrating the loop pedal into his live acts. It's amazing. And I mean, just hats off to these guys. They work very hard.
okay, so as a person who studied piano, how easy was it to pick up the guitar or the harmonica or the violin? Like, how easy, how difficult? Was it easier to start off with the piano, being classically trained?
I think with the piano, the best thing that I learned on that is just using both of my hands, learning how to read music, learning how, because I got access to that looking at other scores, looking at not just piano music, but because you learn the treble clef and the bass clef, that opens up a whole other avenue of understanding for instrumentation and writing for orchestra. And a lot of composers primarily rely on the piano to write their pieces. So it helped me a lot with that. I won't say it really helped me with playing guitar till I started doing the tapping on the neck. But again, that was also inspired, of course, by what people were doing on the electric guitar already. And the percussion and all of that was just because I was interested in that style of guitar. But I would say piano helped for the tapping, sure. Other than that, guitar is a completely different beast. It's very percussive, even without playing the body and tapping on it like a drum. Just in the way the pick interacts with the strings, or even without it, like in flamenco, you get a lot of percussive sounds from the strings. So it didn't help that much. But I will say, already knowing the piano, you have access to a lot of other keyboard instruments. So things like the harmonium in Eastern classical music, obviously you will know how to play that because you can play the piano. And it's easier than the piano because you're using only one hand. The other hand is being used to actually blow air through the instrument. A lot of other keyboard instruments, like say the accordion, that has, you use the keyboard on one side, and then you can hit all of these chord arrangements with the buttons on the side, and then simultaneously blowing the wind into the instrument just to get the sound to come out. There are a lot of instruments you can play because of the piano. And similarly with guitar, you know how to play the mandolin, you know how to play the ukulele. I experimented with the sitar a lot. So, I mean, it just depends on what you're interested in. I had access to those instruments because of these two as a fundamental base, sure. And harmonica was just, I love the harmonica, and it's fun to play.
Do you prefer improv or everything written down for you to, like when you're performing with the band? And which one is easiest or the most fun to play?
Improvisation is always fun, especially improvising with a group of people, because everybody brings their own influences and into whatever you're creating. So that's always fun. I think I prefer having a rehearsed piece and then improvising on that piece, as opposed to just improvising. Yeah, you can count down and say that we're playing these, or it's this chord structure. Let's improvise around that. I have fun with that, sure. But I think just having a prepared piece and then leaving sections to improvise in the middle is more calming for me. But I do enjoy it, especially when everybody else is really good. Then their energy kind of energizes me, and I love playing with them. I'll tell you, at TED, when I performed with Preston Reed, everything is super rehearsed at TED. Like they tell you exactly what to do. And I was told that I will perform my piece, Preston Reed will come and perform his piece, and then we're going to do a duet together on a piece of his called Ladies' Night. And I was very calm, knowing, okay, this is exactly what we're going to do. I know this piece inside out. Preston Reed, of course, hero of mine, so I think it's going to be great. And then Chris Anderson came after we finished Ladies' Night, and I thought this was perfect. It couldn't have gone better. He said, let's do one more. And we hadn't prepared anything. So I was freaking out, and then I actually went off stage to get my other guitar, and Preston Reed started playing one of his pieces, and then I had to improvise over it. So then I was freaking out again, and you can see me throughout the whole performance just like not believing it's going to work and this is a disaster, and then slowly realizing, hey, this isn't bad. This is actually pretty good. This is working. And I at one point just smiled at Preston Reed while we were playing, because I was like, okay, I found a flow, and this is it's coming together nicely. But I never want to be in that position again.
I remember that concert. If nobody has watched it, watch it. You can see Usman standing up, picking his guitar, putting it down. Preston Reed comes up to him, whispers something in his ear, and Usman walks off stage. And Preston announces he's coming back. He just couldn't get another guitar. And then he got a standing ovation.
Yeah, it
for
worked.
Improv, bro.
I think, again, because TED is such a amazing platform. I just wanted everything to go smoothly. I wasn't nervous till that moment. So I just didn't want to blow it. And thankfully we didn't. It worked.
How do you deal with not blowing? Did you like when you pick up a guitar? I'm guessing it was on a different tuning.
That's the other thing I was panicking about, because I could have kept the same guitar, which we played Ladies Night with, but I was more comfortable on the other tuning. So that's why I went and got the other guitar, and I was like, if all else fails, I can just figure out what he's playing and kind of support it. But then he allowed me to, obviously what he was playing was the rhythm and giving me a foundation to go off. So then I just played off of instinct, and like I know it sounds cheesy, but I felt the music and then let it take me wherever it took me.
Okay, so now coming to Coke Studio, how was that? You did like a few different things for Coke Studio. One was playing the guitar, the other one was playing the piano. So,
Coke Studio was really interesting because I wanted to do something experimental for Coke Studio. So my suggestion was that we do one of my guitar compositions called Bone Shaker with tabla and flute, and that turned out really good. So I was very happy with that. The piano one was slightly more difficult because I wanted a string quartet, and it was actually quite difficult to arrange for one, but thankfully they were able to, and I think it turned out great as well. We did a lot of rehearsing. At the time I did Coke Studio, everything was recorded there live. So, and I'm sure they still do that to an extent now, but it's become much more choreographed, and I love where it's gone. But there was something very raw about the original format that they had. So it was fun. We did multiple takes, we recorded everything, and it turned out pretty good.
anything you would have done different?
I think at that time I wanted it to be a little stripped down. But I definitely, when I think about it now, I would have loved to add a few more instruments, make it a little richer. But it is what it is. So I never really think about things like that, oh, I should have done this or that differently. I think it captured how I was feeling in that moment, and I can always revisit that feeling.
Let's talk about Berkeley. Scholarship.
The story for Berkeley is, and just the story, my university story is that I went to Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture. I studied illustration and graphic design, and I dropped out from Indus 2 years into it to go for TED, because I was selected for the TED Fellows program, and then there was this whole kind of TEDx tour planned where I would tour the world speaking at all of these different conferences. I did that, and then I spoke at a Google conference in Boston. From there, the Dean of Admissions from Berkeley was there, and he offered me a scholarship to attend Berkeley, which was amazing, a dream come true. Attended there for 2 years on a full scholarship, and then I got the opportunity to go to Japan and speak about my work there, and animation was always the dream. So I got an opportunity to go there, talk about my work, and then the advice I got in Japan when I visited a lot of animation studios, and my favorite animation studio in the world, Studio Ghibli, they said you should start your own studio and make your film. And I always joke that maybe they were just trying to get rid of me, but I took that advice to heart. And I came back, we started the studio. I tried doing Berkeley and staying up all night and making the film. I couldn't do it. So I took a call that, okay, I have to drop out again and pursue this path. Thankfully, it worked. I don't know what would have happened if it didn't. So yeah, I don't dwell on the past too much. I keep looking forward. But that's what happened.
So you've performed a lot with a lot of different artists, like internationally and in Pakistan, locally, and everything. What was the most fun performance that you will look back to it and be like, that was such an epic performance?
I mean, not many people have seen that performance, and obviously I do a lot of shows where I did the one-man act, played all of my instruments and my compositions, occasionally had this wonderful percussionist, Alfred DeMello, come and play with me on a few of my pieces, but primarily I would perform on my own. I think the most fun I ever had in this performance, there were two actually. I was selected for a program called One Beat, where the US State Department picked 32 musicians from all over the world, and we prepared a lot of music. We did a month-long residency in Florida where we wrote all the music. I forget what the venue was called, but then we went on tour in a bus, and we went from Florida, performing in various cities all the way to the East Coast, culminating in performances in New York. And there were two shows in Brooklyn where it was we kind of cobbled together an orchestra where I played piano, and this wonderful Korean singer, she performed one of her pieces, and I was just supporting that. I just remember the energy on stage. I loved that performance. And then a solo performance that I did in one of the other venues in Brooklyn, where the crowd just wanted to enjoy the music. They were having so much fun. That is something I look back on fondly. And of course, my performance at TED, the first one, that was just so much fun. So I look back on these three memories primarily. I really enjoyed that.
Okay, so since you started performing, right? That was that was actually over a decade ago, right? From then to now, you've done so much. There has been so much change in the Pakistani music industry. Like, what do you think of it? What advice would you give musicians? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Would you like them to do something different?
That's a tricky question, because when I was performing regularly and releasing music, you can say I only released 2 albums, but and the Glassworker orchestral score is so different from the other work. I was always doing what I wanted to do rather than looking at what is popular currently or what the trends are, how people are doing things. That's a good and bad approach, I will say, because I was so insular then. I think I'm less insular now, but I'm still pretty insular. I think the people that are releasing music now and writing music now are very concerned with how others will perceive it rather than staying true to themselves. But there are some phenomenal musicians in Pakistan, and they're so good, just making the music that way as well. So I don't know what the right approach is. I have no advice to give, because what kind of advice would I give to someone when I didn't really pay attention to anything that was happening? I just wanted to make things constantly. That was the motivating force for me. Just make what you want to make, enjoy it. And of course, I would like it if other people enjoyed it with me. But I have no advice. I think everyone's doing a great job, regardless of however they're viewing it. And it'll keep evolving. It'll keep changing. There's a lot of electronic music now, especially. Music has shifted from, and not just in Pakistan, but in the world, has shifted from the creation and recording process and is now more focused on the production process, which is interesting. I'm just seeing how that shift is happening. But it's also allowed a lot of people to come in and make music that would never have held an instrument before. So I think it's cool, and I'm watching it as an observer, but I will keep doing what I want to do.
So now we go for rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Standard tuning, open tuning.
Open tuning.
Can you rate Pearson Reid, Jimmy Page, Khaki King in order of inspiration?
Jimmy Page, Preston Reid, Khaki King.
Acoustic or semi-acoustic?
Acoustic.
Gibson, Taylor or Fender?
Gibson.
Piano, guitar or harmonica?
Piano.
Steinway or Yamaha?
Steinway pianos are amazing, but I'm not a stickler for the brand. I will say Steinway, why not? If I'm getting a piano, if I have to pick one, I'll pick Steinway.
Mozart, Beethoven or Bach?
Mozart.
That was fast. Dawn or dusk?
Dawn. I would have said dusk when I was younger, but dawn.
So thank you so much, Usman Riaz, for being here. After a long time, you've played the guitar. You've done music after a very long time.
After a very long time.
Thank you so much for joining us on the mixtape with City FM 89. I hope you had a good time.
No, thank you very, very much for having me. I've been coming to City FM 89 for so long now. It's been a while since I've done something like this with you guys. Very, very grateful. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much.